Whammo Breakfast.
Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Whammo on Kiwi.
Yes, from publicaddress.net, the Hard News blog there, and also the Media 7 show on TVNZ7, the one and only Russell Brown. Morning, Russell.
Good morning.
And of course, the Christchurch earthquake, top of everyone's minds at the moment. And it was only recently we were talking about your visit to Christchurch and around the edges of the red zone. One can only sort of imagine what people are going through once more, Russell.
Yeah, and I have to say, having been down there recently, I think that really kind of brought it home to me. Because the place was sufficiently shocked already that it's hard to imagine how it must be for people down there. I would say one thing, though, that people down there, everyone I know down there is getting really, really tired of being told what's good for them by people who aren't in Christchurch, and told that perhaps they should just clear out for good. And the New Zealand Herald's Your Views thread on this yesterday, it's like a river of hot burning stupid, really.
Well, that's the usual, isn't it?
Yeah, just the usual. But I think it's actually pretty offensive for people down there to be told that there's no future in their city, and may as well be shut down and relocated somewhere safer. There's no logic in doing that. It would cost $20 billion or something. And also the Herald's lead this morning. I know a couple of friends of mine in Christchurch have already made note of that. A new hell has dawned on thousands of Cantabrians. Okay, it's bad down there, but don't. There's something a bit off about the rest of us telling them what they're going through, frankly.
Yeah. Of course, it's all about attention-grabbing headlines and whatnot for the papers as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at your topic of conversation this week on Media 7, looking at the state of journalism in New Zealand and the fact that possibly we're tuning out far too many journalism students for what's actually available.
Well, exactly. I mean, even if you just narrow it down to journalism rather than other media jobs, we're training nearly 300 young people a year to go into journalism. Are there that many new jobs in journalism? No. Only about half of them get jobs at the moment.
They will go into PR, don't they?
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot, particularly from the AUT communications course. But I'm not wildly comfortable with the two of those things being considered interchangeable and taught under the same roof. I'm sure it works for some people, but yeah, I think that whole industry is changing, and there are not going to be so many jobs. I think the jobs that there are will be quite different. It's not like you're going to go and work for a newspaper and spend the next 20 years there, put it that way.
Yeah.
And one of our guests on the show, Ed Mason, who's just retired from Unitec, has already raised a good point. He says, that there's going to have to be... people who want to do media and journalism are going to have to be more entrepreneurial, and they're basically going to be in charge of their own brand, and they may be freelancing, they may be doing different things. They'll be more like you, actually, mate. You've made what you do, and I think that's going to be a reality in the future.
Still trying to work out how to make money out of that.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the problem, and the point I made in the blog about this, and I actually talked about this to broadcasting school students in Christchurch, is that we live in an age of oversupply. Not only is there so much writing and opinion, things that answer to the description of journalism, that it's very hard to get paid for any of it, but there is so much advertising inventory. We're used to a world where advertising inventory was relatively limited.
Yeah.
So there was only one or two newspapers.
Yeah.
There was two commercial TV channels. Now, basically, every time you write a Facebook update, that's editorial that advertising can be placed against.
Yeah.
And same with YouTube. You had the British equivalent of APRA actually signed an agreement with YouTube in order to get paid, to get a revenue share every time someone looked at a music video, and got pretty disappointed because there just is not that much revenue.
And there is inherent value in niche online content, niche targeted online content, but I think at the moment there's this big gap between actually getting the advertisers to take a risk on this stuff, rather than just throwing it at, say, large radio stations where they're guaranteed a certain demographic and a certain amount of people.
And I've been saying that, and other people have been saying that for quite a few years now, and there's no real sign that the agencies have worked out how to target these niche audiences.
Yeah.
And the audiences aren't that small. I mean, you look at something like Public Address, that's 20,000 unique readers a month, and they're demographically tasty.
Yeah.
High earning, confident about buying things on the internet, highly educated. If we were a magazine, I'd be laughing. And I'd be driving a much better car than I am now.
Well, that's right, and it's also definite as well, isn't it? You know that you've got the actual stats. Whereas, say, with TV and radio, it's it's magical stuff. We've got a few boxes and a few booklets out there, and who knows actually whether or not that really represents listenership and viewership.
Well, exactly. Yeah. No. The numbers that can be conjured out of actually very small samples.
Yeah.
Particularly with regard to TV. The Nielsen household readership survey is a bit more robust, but in comparison to the internet, where you actually have the number in your log,
each single person is logged.
Yep, exactly. But as I also pointed out in the blog, if the Guardian can't get the kind of advertising that lets the Guardian website show me an ad in New Zealand, then you have to think the whole system's failed. This is one of the great global news brands of our era, and yet if we go to the Guardian website from New Zealand, we'll either see no ads or we'll see house ads or placeholders. In Britain, you actually see ads. But how on earth can no one have thought of a way to actually sell an ad to me in New Zealand?
Well, it's going to be an interesting conversation. We'll let you rest your voice for the recording this afternoon.
Oh, God, yes. I hope it lasts, mate.
Yeah, and it'll be on air tomorrow after the 9 o'clock news on TVZ7. Great. Thanks, Russell.
Righto.
Cheers. Publicaddress.net is also where you head, and as we say, the Media 7 show, TVZ7.